developing here since we last spoke during the 1 o'clock hour, I should say the 12 o'clock hour. And just behind me, you can see the makeshift memorial that has been set up for the young man, the 18-year-old Andres Guardado, fatally shot by deputies sometime last night. And before we get into the video, we just want to show you the picture here. We're on Redondo Boulevard, and a whole lot of folks have gathered right here. They're putting up signs. You can see that, guards against police. Others say stop killer cops. We do want to point out, according to the deputies that we spoke with, they did say that this 18-year-old was armed. Meantime, as we did show you these live images, we want to show you some of the confrontations that happened here late last night. Our cameras were rolling when a small scuffle broke out. Again, that was the scene here. At least that was the scene here late last night. As we mentioned, the teen who has been killed has been identified by family members as Andres Guardado. Witnesses at the scene here say that they'd been hired to protect a nearby body shop from taggers at the time. Investigators here with the sheriff's department say that deputies were on patrol. They spotted a man with a gun, so when they approached him, he began running from deputies. They chased him on foot. It ended with multiple shots being fired. Unclear as to exactly how many, but we do know that Andres was hit in the upper torso, pronounced dead at the scene. New this afternoon, family members have gathered here. We heard from Andres' uncle and also his sister. We ask you to take a listen to some of what they said.
I feel my brother's spirit more than anything here. The white man that gave the speech on the news, he's covering it all up. And I know you are. And if you're watching right now, I need to see you face to face because you walked away when I said something to you. So that person that gave the news that said he had an armed gun and pointing it at a gun at the police officers, he's lying.
So they use violence in anybody.
Yes.
No matter what, they train to use the violence to us. That is the question.
Again, that was the uncle and also the sister. We want to point out we are just off the 110 freeway. We're on Redondo Boulevard, just up the street from Figueroa. One of the lanes here is going to be blocked off because you can see folks have taken at least this part of the lane in the street. They have signs up. Looks like they're going to be here for a good portion of the afternoon, if not part of the evening. And again, the makeshift memorial does continue to grow. We'll have much more on this story throughout this evening. KTLA 5 News at 6 o'clock. You can also get the latest on our website. That is ktla.com. I'm Mark Messer, reporting live in Gardena this afternoon. Glenn and Christina.
What happened to this young man here was a tragedy. His name was Andres Guardado. He was shot on June 18th, 2020 by the Los Angeles sheriff deputies or deputies for the Los Angeles Sheriff Department while Guardado himself was working as a security guard at a mechanic shop in Gardena. He was somewhere near the intersection of Redondo Beach Boulevard and Figueroa Street. Shortly before 6 p.m. on the night or the evening of Wednesday, June 18th of 2020. He saw the authorities ran out of fear for what they might do to him. And with the current climate in this country right now, insofar as police and civilian relations are concerned, and especially relations between the authorities and the black and brown communities of this country, who could blame him? Who could blame Guardado from running? So he ran to save his own life. He was working as a security guard. He was on duty as an armed guard, so he had his gun on him. Reports had surfaced that Guardado's gun became visible at some point during the pursuit of the sheriff deputies, at which point they feared for their lives and shot Guardado, killing him on the spot. He was 18 years old. Andres Guardado had recently graduated from high school, and he was working 2 jobs while also attending LATTC, Los Angeles Trade Tech College, studying to be a mechanic, a dream that will now not be realized. At only 18, Andres Guardado is gone too soon. His dreams will never be realized. The promise that he held have been erased forever. All because of the acts of cowardly so-called authority figures, which I keep telling you, these people are not cops. The people who do that are not cops. But so-called authority figures who ought not be in the line of duty because they're cowards, because they fear for their lives, and because they perceive black and brown young men as being threats. And it doesn't make a difference whether you're in a security uniform or not. They see you the same as they would any black or brown man. Your uniform does not exonerate you. Truly a tragedy. And there was a makeshift memorial on site down in Gardado, and also a protest site outside the headquarters of the sheriff's department, where, not the headquarters, outside the sheriff's department in Gardado, in Compton, California, where there were clashes between peaceful protesters and the sheriff deputies, who pushed and shoved the crowd of protesters, including a man holding a child. All of this in the wake of the extrajudicial killing of George Floyd by members of the Minneapolis Police Department, and also the extrajudicial killing of Breonna Taylor in her own home, for which the police said that they had the wrong address. And yet they thought nothing of hunting down this young man, this 18-year-old young man who wouldn't hurt anybody, who did not pose an immediate threat, hunting him down and shooting him in the back, execution style, in the back, like the cowards that they are. The police are cowards, shooting someone in the back when they do not pose an immediate threat, in the line of duty, as they are also in the line of their duty as well. Execution style. What was the police motive for hunting this young man down and executing him by shooting him dead, shooting him in the back? What was their motivation? Was it something personal? Did they know each other? This took place like around maybe about 2 or so weeks ago, right? So the information surrounding the murder of Andres Guardado is still murky, but one is now left to speculate as to whether the sheriff deputy knew Guardado personally, and whether he was motivated by a personal beef he had with Guardado. Or are they just so wicked that even as protests and outrage can be seen around the world, they still have no qualms shooting a non-threatening person who is fleeing the scene, running away, hunting that person down, shooting them in the back as they pose no threat? How did the sheriff deputies end up in an altercation with Guardado to begin with? Were they called to the scene of a crime? Were they just patrolling and happened to see him? What drew their attention to him to begin with if they were not called? And then now, we're also hearing as well that the police confiscated surveillance footage from the scene of the murder and the scene of the execution rather, and had destroyed the evidence. They turned off their body cams. It's just about possible they may have put tape over the badge number so as not to be identified, and they confiscated illegally obtained surveillance footage from the owner of the mechanic shop at the scene of the execution. Illegally obtained surveillance footage and destroyed the evidence, covering up their involvement in an execution, an extrajudicial execution of an innocent young man on his job, for which they had no possible motive. They had no justifiable cause to go in there and execute him as they did. Yet they thought nothing of doing so. Which leaves one to wonder, why do they not think twice about killing people? Why are they the instigators and escalators of situations that would have otherwise ended peacefully? Involving civilians who are compliant. They are compliant. It's the authorities who are escalating. The authorities who are instigating and starting and trying to get society riled up. And then they turn around and gaslight the public and play victim. And now they have justifiable cause to murder people as they, or to murder the suspect that they have in custody, which is probably what they wanted to do from the get-go. They wanted to murder that person for whatever reason. Sometimes they know that person and it's a personal beef that they have. Sometimes they don't know the person. They do not know the person, point blank period. And they notice something about that person that triggers off their jealousy and envy and bad mind and make them want to kill that person. Could be the person has a nice car, maybe a nice watch, maybe dating a nice girl or whatever it is. And that cop was feeling very low in his life in that moment, and seeing that person being so prosperous and happy triggered him into a jealous mad rage to execute the person who he has in custody or who he has pulled over. That could be his motivation. And so now, what he's doing, what the police officer is doing now, the so-called police officer, the coward in a badge, what he's doing now is trying to escalate that peaceful person, getting them riled up to answer him disrespectfully, so he can play victim and claim that he now has justifiable cause to use excessive force. But all of that is gaslighting. They're the instigators. The number one threat to society are the people who claim to maintain law and order, the police. They're the number one gangsters and thugs. And they run around using their badge to commit crimes with impunity. This is what happens when you give power and impunity to criminals. They are corrupt. The criminals are policing society when in fact society should be policing the criminals in blue as well as their cronies in orange. Both should be in orange if you ask me, because I don't see a difference. But the confusion comes because there's a great divide between criminals, where some wear orange and others wear blue, while there are a third set, the majority of criminals, who wear whatever they feel like wearing on a given day. Whatever they feel like, because they are operating in society as normal. They have not been caught. They're regular ordinary civilians and they have not been caught, but they're criminals though. And that might be the majority of the criminal population, the ones who have enmeshed with the rest of us. The ones in blue and the ones in orange combined are the minority. And the majority of criminals are out here enmeshed with the rest of us, appearing normal, having regular jobs, paying their bills, but it is the intent in their minds to sabotage people and ruin people's lives. Now, why do the police feel as though they have the right to execute civilians at will? Why do they feel they have that right? Well, for one, it's because they have impunity and they have gotten away with it so many times, and they know that the corrupt system, the corrupt judicial system, is 100% behind them, and they're probably get a slap on the wrist if they're lucky. If even that. If even that. Because we don't fight back like we're supposed to. So they take us for granted. But then again, that would bring us into the topic for today's podcast, the license to kill. I am Mr. Franklin. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for joining me. Please feel free to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell to be notified of weekly uploads. Now, there are three kinds of people who join the military. Three different groups of people. Number one, The people who are degenerate, stupid people who opportunity could be knocking on their door till the knuckles fall off. They're too stupid to realize when they have a good catch. So the last resort for those people is to join the army. So you have the stupid degenerate waste of space. He's in the army. That is one of three kinds of people who join the army, or one of three reasons why people join the army. They're just plain stupid. Or Section B of number 1 would also happen to include the disadvantaged youth in the ghetto who can't get jobs. They can't get regular jobs because of either A, their own fault because they're stupid, or B, because they're perfectly, not through any fault of their own, because they are perfectly capable, but because of their zip code, they have been cut off from opportunities that were meant for the mainstream society. So you have the stupid rich white kids and the black ghetto kids. That's number 1, right? Number 2, people who reasons people have for joining the military. Number 2, people who truly wish to protect and serve. People who go in there, they believe they're fighting for freedom. They believe that they're helping causes around the world. They're truly helping people. Right? That is number 2. Number 2 reason why people join the army. And then you have number 3, the very topic of this week's podcast, because they want a license to kill. People who deliberately go in there because they want the power to murder people like they're on some kind of Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto video game. Like they see people like they're non-player characters who they can just take them out at will, like it's some kind of game. People who truly want the license to kill. Now, the very same reason that people have for joining the military can be transferred to the very reason people have for joining the police force. People join the police force for the same reason or similar reasons. Because they have been cut off from opportunity either through their own fault or not their own fault. Number 2, they truly wish to protect and serve. And number 3, they want the license to kill. Now, in breaking down these 3 character types, the disconnected youth is pretty easy to sum up. The other 2 are more complex, and we'll deep dive into them later on. But for right now, we have the disconnected youth. If the disconnected youth has evil in his heart, the moment he joins the army or the police force and he realizes that he has a license to kill, the moment he realizes he has that power, if he is not a good kid, he will use that power to his advantage and he'll become corrupt. The power of having a license to kill will corrupt the disadvantaged youth who is not a good kid, who doesn't have a good heart. Especially if it's a kid like Dylan Roof, who's like a white privileged kid and he just want to see a bunch of Arabs in some sandbox in the Middle East and shoot them up. He will join. He probably didn't join for that reason, but the moment he realizes he has that power and he knock heads with the ones who are in there for the license to kill specifically, the moment they knock heads together and they start talking and they form a friendship, the one who went in there explicitly for the license to kill will kind of inveigle and corrupt the mind and the thought process of the Dylan Roof white stupid kid, and he'll turn him into a murderer. So, but he didn't go in there for that reason though, but he came out very corrupt. And it's real easy to get corrupt if you're in that kind of situation, because power corrupts. So you can see how he could turn into a murderer. And get carried away with his newfound powers. So that's number one. Number two is the person who actually specifically went in there seeking a license and a power to kill. It's real easy for him to get corrupt. He's already corrupt. He went in there corrupt. It's real easy for him to kind of like get to know everybody and find out if he's in, if he's gonna be protected, if there are people within the organization who will look out for him and co-sign what he does and consent with their silence, and allow him to go on doing what he does with impunity and turn a blind eye. It's real easy for him to find some sergeant or some captain or somebody of a higher rank who outranks him, who is just as corrupt as he is, and chances are, seeing as how those organizations are so rife with narcissism and corruption, it won't take too long before he finds his clique. The first thing he does when he goes in there is to find his clique. It doesn't take a long time for him to find his clique. So okay, fine. He's in a narcissistic safe haven, as PTE would often call those organizations, and his actions are being protected. And so now he's good to go. Alright, so his situation is simple enough, right? He went in there already corrupt. He was just looking for his clique who would protect him. That's number two. Number three is the really complex one. The guy who joins the force and among other organizations of that kind to truly protect and serve. He truly believes himself as serving the right cause and doing the right thing. Now, guys like that don't last very long on the police force, because they're upsetting the apple cart and going against the status quo. And they're making it real difficult for those of them who are corrupt in there, who are abusing their powers, to keep abusing their powers. Because he's a whistleblower, and they don't want to get caught, and he's the guy who's shining a light on all their wickedness. Right? He's a guy. So they're not gonna like him very much. So he's gonna be given a warm time. And guys like that, one of three things ends up happening to them, which is why the corruption in the police force is allowed to thrive and flourish. The man you're looking at on your screen is an ex-undercover police officer. Oh gosh. Do forgive me. His name is Paul. Right? Let me slide forward for a moment there. Okay, his name is Paul Manning. That's the name I couldn't remember. Anyway, the man on your screen is Paul Manning. He is an ex-undercover cop for the, I believe it was the Hamilton PD in Ontario, Canada. His story is quite compelling. He moved there in 2005. He believed himself doing the right thing. He went there to truly protect and serve and do the right thing. But little did he know that he would soon be met with a situation that would expose the corruption of the police force in Canada, for which he's being heckled and harassed and tormented. Until ultimately he resigns, citing ill health. His story is very compelling, and we're going to go through the story real in depth in just a moment. But this is an example of a good cop struggling to stay clean in a dirty force, and the struggles he goes through to fight for justice and righteousness. Very recently, in the wake of the killing of George Floyd, he tweeted his experience that went viral. The name of his experience, the name of the tweet is this is the reason why there are no good cops, there are no good apples on the police force. This is the reason why there are no good cops or good apples on the police force. Alright, so the tweet was made recently, and we're going to go through it real quickly now. Okay, that's much better. Okay, here we go. You want to know why it's so hard for cops to be good apples? It was 2007 and I was assisting a call with an officer I'd never met before. He was from another team working overtime. Right in front of me, he broke a kid's nose with a punch. The septum was clearly deviated and blood was everywhere. The kid was handcuffed and the officer inquired of me, "What should we arrest him for?" "Well, what did he do?" I inquired. "He called me a name," he said. After 20 minutes of him trying to persuade me we should fabricate a crime, he had to let the kid go. "We need to do notes to get our story straight," he then told me. I don't need assistance in writing what happened, so I found a quiet place and wrote the facts. As I wrote, I was joined by a female sergeant who knew this officer. She spent 20 minutes trying to convince me This kid was a shitbag, and my notes should reflect the danger he posed. I was disgusted. We don't behave this way, We don't behave this way. I went to the platoon commander and provided a statement for the assault I had witnessed. An investigation commenced, one which should have been forwarded to SIU, Ontario. The investigator asked me questions like, how did you know his nose was broken? And where did you get your medical degree? Like, seriously? Where did you get your medical degree? Wow. Then came the result. A phone call from the superintendent whilst I was home. Paul, our investigation is complete and you have been found guilty of misconduct, in that you failed to communicate with a colleague. A verbal warning will be put on file. Be careful in the future. When I got back to work, I was moved from my team and away from my friends to this officer's team. Officers just point blank refused to talk to me, and I went to many calls by myself without backup. And then a message from another officer on the team to meet him. He told me how we look after each other on this team. Don't stab each other in the back. Then for some fucked up reason, he dropped the N-bomb out of nowhere. I just drove off, leaving him sat there. Then I was called into the deputy chief's office with the same superintendent and my union rep. In front of both, he told me to be careful what you say in the future or you might not get backup when you need it. I was an inspector when I left the MET in 2005 to move to Canada. But my appraisal that year reflected incompetence and unworthiness of the position of constable. Every position or course I applied for, I was refused. I continued to whistleblow until the chief told me, you really have no concept of brotherhood, do you? Oh boy. Then I whistleblew anonymous. 2015-ish, after going off sick with PTSD from an attempt murder, I went public with everything, to be met with covert operation by not only senior management but by member of the city council and lawyers, telling everyone who would listen, I'm nuts, crazy, and delusional. This is how they deal with officers who try to do the right thing. 2 warrants on my home, numerous criminal investigation, and 1 arrest later, and I'll still do the right thing no matter what they try and do to me. The officer who broke that kid's nose is now a sergeant, probably helping others cover up their wrongdoings. As for me, I'm off sick and will probably never find gainful employment again. Oh, don't despair, sir. I think you will. There's so many opportunities out there for people who have been blackballed from their jobs. You have Uber and Lyft and Postmates and DoorDash, and you have you could sell on Amazon. You could you can sell things on Amazon, clothes and shoes and accessories, you know. But anyway, I digress. So back to his tweet. As for me, I'm off sick and will probably never find gainful employment again. Was it worth it? Fuck no. Would I do the same? Fuck yes. Would I advise other officers to break the blue wall of silence? Well, that's for them to decide, but it will end your career. It will end your career, and you will also be blackballed as well. So consider other means of income before you do that, you know. Anyway, until you offer protection for good apples, you asking them to give up their careers because of someone else's wrongdoing. Oh, okay. Until you offer protection for good apples, you're asking them to give up their careers because of someone else's wrongdoing. Hashtag police brutality, hashtag BLM, hashtag Black Lives Matter, hashtag police reform. Addition for naysayers. This is a very small story in a massive corruption scandal. I use this story because it showed every step of a system used to demoralize anyone who would report wrongdoing. The police have effectively stopped defending the lawsuit. They sued him? Or he sued them? Well, they're defending it, so I guess he sued them, huh? So anyway, and rightfully so, sue them. Absolutely. Addition. Apparently, I'm about to receive a cease and desist of my own association / union for my tweets. I'll post it as soon as I get it. See how hard this is to report wrongdoing? And then his next tweet below that, and here it is from the Treasury Secretary, Derek Don. Getting kicked from my own union / association for whistleblowing and the wrongdoing of others. Until you change this, nothing changes. This is why good cops don't come forward. Well, Mr. Paul Manning, I must thank you, sir, for sharing your story. I'm sorry about what happened to you. I appreciate you doing the right thing. You, sir, are a good cop, deserving of respect, and by all means, you most certainly have gained my respect. When I tell my listeners to respect the police, sir, you are the one I'm talking about, and others like you. As for the police, the so-called cops abusing their powers, the ones who broke that I'm sorry. Like the one, for example, who broke that kid's nose that you witnessed. Cops like those, dirty cops, those are not cops. They're thugs with badges, but they're not cops. You were probably the only cop on that force. Thank you for sharing your story, sir. Once again, if you're listening, or if you know him, or if someone who knows him, feel free to kind of like share my video. Once again, if you're having difficulty with your finances, there are options out there for you. There's Uber, Lyft, and there's the delivery apps like Postmates and DoorDash and Grubhub, right? And you could sell merchandise and accessories on Amazon or Walmart. There are things you could do to get by, so do not despair. We are alive in the most fantastic times that one could have ever asked to live in insofar as technological advances are concerned. Too bad that human nature is still uncivilized, though. That's really too bad. But no one could really go broke in these times, you know. So, thank you for sharing once again, and I wish you all the best in your endeavors. And I wish you all the best with your lawsuit against the police force. Because they had no right to do that to you. That is criminality. This is what I mean when I say that the police are not here to serve and protect. They are criminals with badges. And the badge is the only thing that separates the criminals in blue from the criminals in orange. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Look at the great lengths that they go through just to protect their license to kill. Look at the way they pull the other cops off of okay, look at the way that they isolate you, Mr. Manning. Look at the way that they isolate you and have you taking calls by yourself, putting your life in danger. Look at the way that they're testing you by saying disrespectful, historically racist slurs in your presence to see how you'd react. And when you do go forward, look at how they gaslight society. They try to gaslight you first, and when that doesn't work, they try and control how you are perceived by the public, calling you crazy. And then when that doesn't work, they put a gag order on you. Why would you put a gag order on a crazy person? It makes no sense. They must have something to hide. Anybody who puts a gag order on somebody has something to hide. Nobody would waste all this precious time and money and resources to put a gag order on a crazy person. You would just let the crazy person run their mouth, wouldn't you? Yeah. So they're calling you crazy. That doesn't work, and now they're putting a gag order on you. And now you're suing them. Suing them for blackballing you, for ruining your reputation and ruining your earning potential that you need to survive. That's fucked up. I'm sorry to hear what you're going through, but thank you at the same time for sharing your story so we could get the word out there, so that people have to understand. Until the system behind police brutality ceases to exist, then police brutality itself will also cease to exist. It is a system that upholds these bad apples, that allows them to thrive and flourish. So for the people out there defending the police, talking about, oh, it's not all of them, it's just a few bad apples. Yeah, it's just a few bad apples. You're damn right it is. But then, all it takes is for one bad apple to spoil the whole bunch. It's the whole bunch. It's not just a few bad apples. It's the whole bunch that's bad. And the bunch of bad apples is trying to corrupt the few good apples. That's what's going on. And when you are holding on to your benevolence and trying to fight off the corruption and whatever, trying to fight off their attempts at converting you into an evil person. Whenever it is that you hold on to who you truly are, one of three things will happen to you. You will either be fired and blacklisted from getting any other job unless you literally move out of town. The only way to fight the blacklisting is to move out of town and maybe even have a career change. If you know that you're bright and intelligent and capable, you could have a career change. It may be an inconvenience for you to go back to school and learn something new. Look, I get it. But if you need the money, you need a job, then hey, you have to do what you have to do. Move out of town and have a career change. It's the only way. Unless, of course, you're going to be an independent contractor like an Uber or Uber or a Lyft driver or DoorDash driver. Unless you're going to be an independent contractor like that, if you want a regular W-2 job, the only way to fight off being blackballed is to move out of town and change your occupation. So, one of three things will happen to you. For you being a whistleblower and breaking down the blue wall of silence. It's either you will be fired and blacklisted, which, like I said before, the influence can go only so far, so you could outrun their influence. And then number two, you end up dead. They end up killing you and make it look like an accident. And then number three, you change and become like them and support what they do. So number one, you get blacklisted. Number two, you die a hero. Shout out to Aaron Eckhart from his portrayal of Harvey Two-Face Dent from The Dark Knight Rises. Number two, you die a hero. Number three, you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Oh, I'm sorry, not The Dark Knight Rises. Not The Dark Knight Rises, the Dark Knight. 2008 film, The Dark Knight, right? Yeah, so shout out to Aaron Eckhart. That was his famous movie line in that film, The Dark Knight, 2008, where he said, it's either you die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And that is like what's probably going to happen to cops who don't conform. It's either they die a hero or they live long enough to literally see themselves become the villain. Right? Where they manage to corrupt you and turn you into one of them, and the next thing you know, they're beating up and ganging up on an innocent suspect that they have in cuffs, and you are just standing by and watching them do it. Or you might even be laughing while they're doing it, you know, and I don't know. It's up to you it is up to you on a very individual level whether you want to die a hero or see yourself become a villain. Now, the good news is that there are more than one ways to die. So, being fired and blacklisted could be seen as a form of death as well. It's a death of something, isn't it? If not the death of your physical vessel, then certainly the death of your police career. Your promising police career. Which life goes on. So hopefully the death you die is not as final as the death of one's physical vessel. That should kind of soften the blow a little bit. where it's best to step down gracefully than to step down in disgrace or be forced to resign in disgrace, or to be actually physically killed, or even worse than that, to see yourself become the villain. Because to see yourself become the villain is a death of your soul. The first thing that could happen to you, being blacklisted, that's a death of your promising police career. You could always get another job in a different town. The second thing that could happen to you is a death of your physical vessel. And that's really too bad if it gets to that. But even worse than that, the third thing, to see yourself become corrupt, to allow yourself to be corrupted like them, to allow them to corrupt you, is a death of your soul. So I would rather resign and get another job than for me to either die in body or in soul. I'm going to die regardless. Why not choose my poison? Do I die in career, in body, or in soul? I'd rather die in career. But the choice is yours to make on the individual level. I can only give advice, you know. But the story of Mr. Paul Manning is a prime example of why police corruption will always thrive and flourish. It is not a few bad apples that are just happen to be on the force, really, and a few bad apples are on a good force and no one says anything. You kidding me? No, that's not the case. The force is bad. The force is dirty and corrupt, and it's a few good apples who will suffer in one way or another. Who will die in one way or another. Right? The force is bad. That's why the people are crying for the defunding of the police. The police got to go. They gotta go. Because the ones who join the force seeking a license to kill will be protected, and the ones seeking opportunity to sustain oneself can be easily swayed, especially if they're stupid and they already don't have a good heart to begin with, or they just don't care. And number 3, the good cop who truly joined the force to protect and serve, if he's not strong, they could corrupt him. And if he is strong, they will give him the fight of his life, as they did with Mr. Manning. The stronger you are, the harder they will fight. That's how that works. The stronger you are, the harder they will fight. So either way, they find a way to get everybody on one accord with their agenda. They will be allowed to thrive and flourish. Either way, no matter how you slice it, they will be allowed to thrive and flourish. And ones who went in there for other reasons besides seeking a license to kill, the ones who had other motives, they will either sell their soul out and become one of them, or they'll be fired and blacklisted, or they'll die. But if you're fired, that's probably a good thing, because at least you could fight the police from outside the force. You can do a more effective job fighting them outside the force than within the force. In some cases, unless you're willing to be a double agent, and you went in there with the motive to be a double agent, and you knew what the deal was from day one, which I encourage you to do. I encourage you, as Kid Organic was saying the other day, if you want to effectuate true lasting change, join the CIA as a double agent, and while you're in there, fuck shit up and wipe everybody's debt out while you're at it. Yeah. Unless you went in there with the motive to be a double agent, you didn't just half-ass change your mind and decide to be a double agent along the way. You went in there with the motive. Unless you're doing that and you're working to gain their trust, you are better off actually fighting the police from outside the force than from within the force. Because if you try to do the right thing, if you try to fight the police within the force by doing the right thing and being all this good person and expect them to respond to that, expect their animalistic reptilian mind to respond to you being a good person, you're going to frustrate yourself and burn up all your energy. And you need to protect your finite energy at all cost. It's very finite and very precious. Protect it. So that's not going to work here. Police will fall on deaf ears, and they're just going to switch tactics and find a way around it regardless. So if you're not, I mean, you're already inside the force. You're already internal as far as they're concerned, but you're not doing a good job because you're not acting as a double agent. A double agent have to pretend to be as corrupt as they are to garner their trust while he's sabotaging them from within. Trying to reason with them and be a goody two-shoe is not being a double agent. So if you're going in there to reason with them and be a goody two-shoe, they're going to laugh at you and make a mockery of you, and ultimately really hate you for it. And then by them laughing up with you, you would have bought them enough time to switch tactics and think of another way around you. You know? So that is not going to work. These people don't change, they just simply switch their tactics based on what you're saying. Like any true narcissistic bastard would, because they are narcissists. A corrupt cop abusing his power is a narcissist cop. And many police forces are a narcissistic safe haven. That's why they have to go. That's why the police have to be defunded, because they're narcissists within a narcissistic safe haven that protects them. That's why they gotta go. And this kind of thing is not unique to police departments or sheriff departments. It is even evident in the PPO industry. Now, if you don't know what a PPO is, it's basically private security. It's being a security guard, right? And I should know because I'm an ex-security guard myself. And while in there, the level of corruption that I witnessed, them testing you to see if you're a good person, if you have a good heart, if you're going to try and do the right thing, and when you don't, they try and shake you down and fight against you being promoted. Try and fight against you getting a promotion. They want to see if you're going to break the rules and be a dirty, corrupt security guard, and when you're not, they try and fight you from being promoted. Try and fight you out of a promotion that you're more deserving. They try and control who moves up and who doesn't. And they try and control the kind of experience that you're allowed to have as a black man in America based on that. And even when you find greener pastures elsewhere and you're resigning, they're still harassing you and giving you a warm time for resigning. That's how much control they must have at all times. And you leaving and resigning is like you fighting against their level of control. And they take serious offense to that. They'll kill you for that. They will legit murder you for that. They even sent this guy for me to train on my final day of work, who he was himself training in the Navy. And he said, I've beefed up this much over the past year, I could kill you with my bare hands. That's what he said. So now you're sending people to threaten to kill me because I'm resigning? You sick bastards. Those are sick people. Those are sick, dirty, narcissistic people. Now, that security company and the one I went to after that, those were two giant narcissistic safe havens, and the last one was even a racist safe haven. A racist safe haven. As soon as I went up in there, one of the lieutenants was talking about people being coons or whatnot, using the word coon very loosely. And at one point, and this is how the story of Mr. Manning triggered my memory of an incident I had with that same lieutenant at my job, where he was talking about CYA cover your ass, and he's like, you cover your ass, I got enough ass for them to chew on. And it's like my brother used to say, you got nigger ass. I'm like, what? And he's saying it like it's a joke, but he's throwing that little white supremacy dog whistle out there to see how I grab it, to see if I was going to coon up to him. And when they saw that I didn't, sure enough, they moved me to a different location, and sure enough, I wouldn't last much longer there, you know? So, it's just people being crazy, man. Like, it's just crazy shit. Throwing his little white supremacy dog whistle out there, little tests out there to see how I take it. Saying it like it was a joke or whatever. So it exists even in my point is that the corruption and the racism and the narcissism exists within private security enterprise as well as with the city cops and the sheriff department. The whole system is nasty and corrupt and full of people who are seeking a license to kill and a license to exert their power and their perceived dominance. Because people who are truly dominant are not on a power trip at someone else's expense. So I say perceived dominance over their staffers and their underlings and people who are under them, right? It's full of people who are like that, and the things they do on a power trip would never cease to amaze me. So I'm telling you about some of the corruption that happens in the with like private security guards, and if security guards are being abused and ill-treated and threatened by other guards who are done with the agenda and the bosses themselves, imagine what must go on in these dirty police forces full of a majority bad apple clique with one or two clean guys in there who they either manage to corrupt or they manage to get rid of in one way or another. It's not the so-called few bad apples who gotta go. No, it's the whole bunch that gotta go. Throw the whole bunch out. Why should I pay my tax money to fund the very police force who could possibly execute me during a regular traffic routine because they think I look suspicious or whatever the fuck they always say? Why should I do that? Why don't we withhold our taxes and not pay one blinking red cent in taxes until they actually defund the police? But when they defund the police though, there has to be other organizations there has to be a police replacement. And matter of fact, we don't even have to wait for the police to be gone for the replacement to get here. We could start doing so. We could start the replacement process before they're even fully gone out the door. There will always be a need for a police presence because people cannot be trusted to be on their best behavior if left up to their own devices. There are people out there in the world who would thrive in a society for which there was no accountability, and for which there were no checks and balances. Think about all the narcissistic people you have encountered in your lives and even your own family. The reason why those narcissists didn't outright beat you up and kill you is because they were afraid of being arrested and thrown in jail. Yeah. So the moment the police are gone, guess what's gonna happen? People are gonna be, the purge will begin. The people are gonna be breaking into people's homes and businesses, shooting, looting, stealing, raping, beating people up, killing them. People will outrightly disregard restraining orders and come find you wherever you're at, and you'll be at their mercy. Unless you can protect yourself and you got guns and machetes and knives, tear gas, mace, you wouldn't be able to protect against criminals who would seize the opportunity to take part in a purge. Unless the National Guard or the FBI enters the city streets and enact martial law immediately and take control, there is going to be a purge, and we are going to be left up to the mercy of our own defense capabilities and the criminals who threaten them, who threaten us. So, a vigilante group would have to rise up from out of the ashes, or from out of before even there would be any cause of ashes being left behind. Before there's any destruction taking place, vigilante groups, civilians who want to truly serve and protect, the vigilante groups could actually rise up if you have military training, or you have experience handling weapons, or you're an ex-police officer, the good ones, and you know how to be strategic and tactical in your approach. As long as you wear a mask to protect your identity and the people you love, we're calling upon people to rise up and join a vigilante clan to help maintain order and to truly serve and protect. For the cops who wanted to truly serve and protect, you joined the wrong force. Now, I understand the reason why you joined the wrong force. You were told a lie and you bought it. Therefore, you were brainwashed. That's not your fault. That is not your fault. You truly believe that the force you were joining was one that was interested in serving and protecting the public. But in reality, the police are not there to serve and protect the public. They're there to serve and protect the state and keep the state's most valuable assets in check. That is the people, the taxpayer. Keep the taxpayer in check. Keep them living in fear so they don't get any ideas that they could start an uprising. And serve our interests and protect us, the state. Because really and truly they're cowards, so they need their own little militia to protect them from us. Because the strength and the power is really with us. We're just not united, that's all. If we were united, we'd be a force to be reckoned with. We'd truly be a force to be reckoned with, but we're not united. We're too busy with the petty infighting and West Coast, East Coast beef and black versus Mexican beef and all that fucking bullshit. And we're all in the same boat together. It's too much petty infighting among our people, man. That's why as long as they could keep us divided and distracted with bread and circuses, we will never revolt. Keep us divided, fighting among ourselves, and keep us distracted with bread and circuses, and we will never revolt. And they're right, and they have us figured out to a science, which is why they know how to keep us in check. They fear the day we all unite and rise up. That is why there has to be unity among the regular civilians, and especially among black and brown people. And there aren't too many people talking about black and brown unity. only the radical Latino, and by the way, shout that guy out, man. Shout him out. You know, only like the radical Latino and Bird Martinez, they're the only people talking about black and brown unity. I don't see anybody else really talking about it. Yeah, radical Latino seems to have the right idea, and I appreciate that he shouted me out on his program this past week. So, I really appreciate him doing so. Thank you very much for that. All right, so they're the only two people who talk about black and brown unity: the radical Latino and Bird Martinez. And Andrew 26101. I am interested in black and brown unity, but it can't really happen until much of the petty infighting is over with and the brainwashing is over with and people wake up and realize that we're in the same pot together. And we're being slow cooked. This is not really a rapid frying process. We're being slow cooked like a boiling frog. Now, if you know the tale of the boiling frog, if you put a boiling frog in a hot scorching pot of water, the boiling frog will jump out immediately. But if you put the boiling frog in cold water and you gradually turn the pressure up in the pot, he will stay there and be cooked alive. We are in a boiling pot. We are boiling frogs in a slow stew. So we've been cooked alive and we're not fighting back. But the powers that be are petrified of the day that we wake up and realize the power that we have as a united front and fight back. So they have their little police, their little paramilitary militia, whatever, to protect them. And these cops are operating under the pretext of protecting and serving the public when really and truly they're there to protect and serve the state, not the public. There is even a 2005 court ruling, Supreme Court ruling, for which a Supreme Court justice actually ruled that the police are here to serve and protect the state. That is why when you receive a writ of habeas corpus and you go before a judge, if you look at your subpoena, the subpoena doesn't say the surname of the person the complainant. If you're a defendant, the subpoena doesn't say the complainant or the complainant's name. The subpoena will read the people versus so and so, the people versus O.J. Simpson, the people versus Brown, the people versus Sanchez. Not Brown versus Williams. No, the people versus Williams. And the people is just a euphemism for the state. They're using the word people, but they're really talking about the state. So even if you're the victim of a crime and you go to court as the complainant, the DA will be the prosecutor in the case, most likely. The defendant would have to be the one to hire a private attorney, but because the DA will automatically be the prosecutor and will defend the complainant. And the reason why that is, at least over here in this country, is because By you being the victim of a crime, you are a scapegoat who represents the state. So once it gets past you being the victim of a crime and you're now in the court, it's no longer really about you, it's about using you as a pawn to prosecute the defendant. And you're just there representing the state. You're there not really representing, well, yes, representing. You're there representing the state as their pawn. They're using you as an excuse to prosecute the defendant, try him, find him guilty, and put him in the prison industrial complex for which he'll serve at hard labor, which will benefit the state. So they're not punishing him for his crimes against you, the victim. They're actually using you, the victim / pawn, as an excuse to put him, the defendant, in their prison industrial complex to work for them for free. The people doesn't mean the people, it means the state. So when they say the people versus Brown, the people versus Williams and so forth, it's the state versus all those people. The state versus the defendant. You're just there as a pawn. It really isn't about you. But they'll need to play the game and gather evidence though, right? Yeah, they'll need to play the game and gather evidence and make it and make it look like it's about fighting for your justice. Haven't you ever wondered why you probably haven't received justice unless you receiving justice directly serves their agenda? And if they don't see how it would serve their agenda, or if for that matter it even cripples their agenda and threatens their agenda, you will not see justice in any American court of law, in any state, because of that 2005 court ruling. They're not here for you, they're here for the state. So we're basically on our own. It's really us versus them now. We are on our own. So we need these civilian vigilante groups because they are here to protect and serve the state, and they're being given a license to kill for which they can hunt us down like dogs and shoot us in the back execution style. So we really need our own vigilante group. But as I was saying in previous podcasts, my only hope is that the vigilante group doesn't become as corrupt as the people who oppress us. We have to figure out how to keep it clean and how to never lose sight of our core values, which is to deliver true justice and to truly serve and protect those who are in need and those who are true victims of a crime, who are truly seeking justice. But we're going to need training. The vigilantes are going to need training and equipment and a mask and helmets and armors, suits of armor, and tactical gear. We're going to need all those things in order for our vigilantes to be effective. But those things cost money. We're going to need money. Where the money going to come from? We have more spending power than any other race, but we have no economic power. Why is that? Because we keep spending money and sending money in the wrong direction, patronizing these mainstream establishments that only support the agenda, support the white supremacist agenda, who maybe even donate to like Trump's campaign. Which, by the way, while doing research for tonight's podcast, I came across a news item that the CEO who owns the Taco Bell and Wendy's franchise donated $400,000 to Trump's election campaign, but because I assume they were boycotted, they have since filed for bankruptcy. So that's good. You see, this is what I'm talking about. Action gets results. Boycott gets results. This is what I'm talking about. But back to my original point. These mainstream franchises support white supremacist agendas that you don't even know about. Look at how a couple of years ago, the Papa John's founder, John Schnatter, was exposed for being a racist. It's a wonder how he haven't filed for bankruptcy yet. But oh well. Give them time. Only time will reveal. Only time will reveal their ultimate fate. Give them time. Yeah, so the owner for the Taco Bell and Wendy's franchise went bankrupt shortly after pledging $400,000 to Trump's election campaign. Stop giving these people your money. Support black businesses. Support black restaurants, black grocery stores, black clothing stores, black hair salons. Keep the economic integrity of our community strong by allowing the dollar to circulate at least 25-30 times within our community. The most effective means of demonstration is to hit them where it hurt the most. Hit them in their pocket. Now, on Tuesday, July 7th, there's going to be an event called Blackout Day, where black people all across America and all the world over, and also our non-black allies as well, other people of color, we're going to boycott the mainstream market. We will not spend a single dollar. We will not go to work. We'll not go to work. We'll not spend a dollar. We'll boycott the mainstream market. We will stock our food pantries and our refrigerators by supporting black grocery stores, local black grocery stores and farmers markets. And we'll remain in our homes And we won't go anywhere. And we will not stimulate the market, not one iota. The economic impact of our boycott will be felt. We'll make a profound statement as to the power of our spending dollar and how we're demanding better treatment and demanding to be more appreciated. Many people are not aware of this, but the LA riots in which Rodney King was assaulted, what started those riots even to begin with, was a 15-year-old girl who went into an Asian beauty shop. She was accused of theft. She put the item back down and was walking out the store, and as she was walking out the store owner shot her and killed her regardless. The store owner, I believe, was exonerated by the judge, who said that if that 15-year-old girl was standing before the judge on that day, the judge would have thrown the book at her. But the girl didn't do anything. She put the item back and walked out the store with her dignity, and she was shot. And the store owner was let off scot-free. But the judge, the racist bigot judge, actually said that the girl who innocently walked away with her dignity and who was killed would have been given a lengthy sentence for something that she did not steal. So when situations like that is going to cause a citywide riot for which a man is going to be assaulted by the police and looted, and entire stores are looted, similar to what happened recently with George Floyd, almost 30 years in the future, right? When you are being accused of theft by people who you go there to spend your money with and make them rich, and they're accusing you of theft and shooting you for not stealing anything, it's time for you to boycott the mainstream market. Stop supporting these people. Only spend your money with black-owned businesses, or don't spend your money, point blank period. Only for one day. Look at the economic impact that I am anticipating that we'll have for one day and one day only. Imagine if we would do this every day. If every day was Blackout Day. Imagine the impact we'd have on this economy. We'd shut this shit down in like 3 weeks. 3 weeks. We'll shut the shit down in like 3 weeks. Not even a month. That is how much impact we can have on this economy. If we don't like something, we can shut this shit down right this minute. That's why they don't mess with the Jews and they don't mess with the Chinese, because they are banded together. They have a tribe or a pack mentality. And you can't mess with them like that. Because they will shut the shit down, and the people who did wrong to them will be held accountable, and they will not spend a single dime. They already don't, really and truly. They have their own bank and everything. What say we? But we're the only one that have strength for, and the very next day, we're the only people who we suffer an injustice, and the very next day, we go back to the very store for which Mr. Chin had just yesterday accused us of theft. What the hell do you think is going to happen the next time? Stop being so docile, and stop having the Stockholm Syndrome, and stop going back to the very people who oppress you and treat you terribly and accuse you of being a thief. You know how low it is to be accused of being a thief? There's only few things on this earth that's worse than being a damn thief. And they look at you like you're a common petty thief. If you want to call me something, I'd rather you call me a mercenary and a revolutionist. But to call me a low-down, dirty, petty thief, that's the worst insult ever. I'd rather you call me a revolutionist and a mercenary. I'd rather you call me that. But don't call me a thief. And yet the very next day we go back in these people's stores and continue to patronize them after receiving the unjust treatment that we had received, that we don't deserve. We have to stop doing that. And Blackout Day promises to be a demonstration of what we're capable of doing if in fact Blackout Day was every day. We have to learn to start supporting our own business, supporting our own fellow brethren, and pay the full price, and stop asking for discounts and bargain deals. Imagine you asking for a bargain deal from someone from your own community, but yet you have no problem going into a mainstream establishment and paying the full price. This is the kind of mentality that has to change before there can be true, lasting change. So anyway, Blackout Day is set to occur this coming Tuesday, July 7th. If you're hearing this podcast on Sunday, it's going to be the day after tomorrow. So it's going to be on Tuesday. So you have like 2 days left. And Sunday would be a good day to stock your pantry. Monday is a regular day, and then Tuesday you stay your ass home. Call out of work. Don't go to work, because it takes you spending money to make money. You gotta buy the bus pass or the gas for your car. You gotta drive to work or use public transportation. You gotta buy lunch. You gotta do all that. It takes money to spend money. So if you're at work, I guarantee you're spending money. So here's what you do. Call out of work and stay home, and don't concern yourself with what goes on there while you're not there until after you get back to work. Especially if you have experienced an unfair dynamic where your workload was disproportionately higher to that of your whiter colleagues, for them calling out of work and dumping all their work on you. Remember when they used to do that? Well, now is your chance to do that to them. Let them take up your workload for a change. Let them pick up the slack for a change. You don't worry about what goes on there when you're not there. Let them serve you for a change. And you stay home and crash the market. That's how that works. Good. So, Blackout Day, Tuesday, July 7th, 2020. It runs from midnight on the Monday night, from 11:59 Monday night until 12:01 Wednesday morning. So you get 2 extra minutes. Call out of work, stay home, plan something fun with the kids, maybe a little get together or whatever, or just a barbecue in the backyard or whatever. You know, little local get together, nothing really that involves really traveling too far. You don't want to really go too far. maybe barbecuing or just fun activities in the house, you know. And no matter what you do, do not stimulate the economy on Tuesday, July 7th. And we will see the impact that we have on the economy. We will see the impact. And if the impact is great, as I hope it will be, for one day only, then just imagine how much greater of an impact we'd have on the economy if Blackout Day was every day. And with that said, next week's topic: the aftermath of Blackout Day and other potential future Blackout Days to consider. I hope you'll join me then. I am Mr. Franklin. This has been Frank and Upfront.